Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Irocknits podcast. I'm Cori Eichelberger, coming to you from a cloudy but not frigid Minnesota, where all my neighbors are putting out Christmas lights today. So this is take two because the dog would really like to be out there with them. And so he's at the windows going, Mom, they're out there. Mom, did you see? They're putting out And so I had to tuck him away with a little treat so that he doesn't bark so loud that all of you have to turn your headphones or your sound way down today. So welcome. I'm really pleased to have all of you here and back with me each and every 2 weeks that I podcast. Some of you get in touch and leave me such heartwarming messages, and many of you really liked Matt on the podcast again last week. So that just tickles me that so many people see in Matt what I see in him, which is just such a kind human being with such a wonderful talent. He's just a dear friend. I think I commented out on the internets this week that everyone should have Matt as a friend. So I'm going to start today with a bit of a warning. I found on Instagram in an ad this week a sweater that I recognized that had been knit and photographed by a friend of mine, and it was being sold on a website that was not hers or remotely in any way connected to hers. So I went over to the website and looked, and I found a number of sweaters on the website. So this is what the website looks like. And that is Stephanie's sweater, but this is called Modest Mint, and I will show you a few of the sweaters that I found on there. That's the 3-in-1 sweater by Atelier Alpha. There were a number of sweaters from Love Sock Wool, or Knit Love Wool. Yeah, Jen Steingass. There was a Caitlin Hunter Ramblin' Rose sweater. Anyway, that we need to be really careful when we click through to different websites like that. I did contact all of those designers just to let them know that I had found this site, and the responses that I got back from two of them were that they really believe that if you order from that site, you probably don't get anything. The sweaters are anywhere from $30 to $40. It looks like possibly they're coming out of China. There's a little bit of a contact information that we kind of went down that rabbit hole. Really didn't have that much to do with me, but it's just sad, right? Looks like they're copying and actually stealing the photography right from Ravelry and making web pages. So just consumer beware. I just posted on my Instagram feed this morning, but I know all of you don't necessarily follow me or aren't on Instagram. So I thought I'll just mention it because I think it is something to be aware of. The Irocknits Designs KAL for November and December is now going on. So if you knit any of my patterns between November and December and post a finished object in that thread, we've done this entire knit along for a year, and I've gotten to see a lot of you knitting away on different projects that I designed. I will give away a $25 gift card to Etsy for anyone who posts in that thread, and then I'll draw from random number generator to see a winner in the 2 months of November and December. And I have an announcement about the indie designer gift along that is starting on the 26th, and it's the first year that I've gotten to sign up. So I noticed the gift along. It's called GAL on Ravelry, and it is a giant group of knitwear designers who get together and put their patterns on sale prior to the holidays. And you create a bundle of patterns, so up to between 10 and 20 patterns, and you put them on a discount of 25% off. And so there is a thread called the Indie Gift Along, and it's GAL. So I think it's spelled out as Gift Along on Ravelry. Sometimes Ravelry's search engine is a little tricky. So if you don't find it one way, try putting it in a different way or without a hyphen, because Ravelry really requires almost a perfect search. You have to put the word in spelled correctly. 2 years ago, when I saw the gift along, I tried to sign up and I did not have 10 patterns out on Ravelry that were not free patterns, and the book that we had written didn't count because we didn't have those as individual pattern downloads at the time. Then last year I missed the deadline. I went out to sign up and I was a day late. So this year is the first year that I had it written on my calendar and I got on board, and they changed the requirements. So this year you had to have 20 patterns on Ravelry as a designer before you could participate, which I do. So I was like, oh, they'll probably change it to something that I won't get to participate in. But anyway, if you've never been involved, there are knit-alongs that are sponsored, and there are challenges that you can do if you knit. There's an Opadu challenge, which is what a little girl of one of the designers used to call an octopus, an Opadu, and so that they named it that. And you knit a bunch of designs from different designers, and by February. So the knit along starts on the 26th, and the patterns go on sale through like December 1st, if I'm getting that right. And then the knit along happens for any of the patterns that you've gotten. So you can go out and take a look at that. If you have questions, just get in touch with me. But if you're watching this between now and December 1st, you might want to go out and get yourself some patterns that you hadn't purchased before. Put a few in your cart and make a designer very happy before the holidays. This is the Indie Gift Along information page. Okay, on Ravelry in groups. That's where I went. And these are the little tags that you'll be seeing all the designers use. You can find a list of where all the designers are. I think they even put out a video for people to watch to find out all the information. But yes, November 26th at 8 p.m. through December 2nd at 11:59 p.m. And that's both Eastern Standard Time in the US. And then the gift along will happen from November 26th to December 31st for the knitting part. So you have like 5 weeks for the knitting part. Okay? I also have just updated all of my patterns to say that if you buy any 3 of my patterns, you'll get a 4th pattern for free. So if you're interested in, say, a couple of my winter kind of Christmas designs, so I have the Holiday Mystery knit along from last year, which was the cowl with all of the sampler stitches in it. That is available. With my old-fashioned stocking hat pattern, my chim chimney pattern, which is the chim chimney hat, and maybe a nice capades hat, which is the snowflake pattern. Maybe you haven't ever bought any of those. You put all 4 of those in your cart, and you'll only pay for 3. And it's just there's no coupon necessary. I put it on all my patterns so that I can encourage people to purchase more of my patterns while they're out there picking them out. And I just have talked to a couple of designers who have that as a ongoing thing. And so I thought, yeah, I'll get on board with that. So there's a couple of ways to save yourself a little money this year. I just going to quickly say that someone told me that after every podcast that she watches, she buys a pattern. And you know who you are, and that is really, really sweet of you to watch a podcast and then, pay it forward a little bit to me. I was really touched this week because I hadn't noticed. I sell patterns a few a week. It's not like I sell hundreds, but I don't always, and I get a notification, but I always don't look at the Ravelry name of the person on every one. I will often glance at what pattern it is so I get an idea of which patterns are most popular, but anyway, that was just really, really nice. So I should thank you. I have a tip or trick this week that we're going to start with. And boy, did a lot of you like the tip from last week. Sometimes when you make a lot of mistakes, you learn a lot of fixes. That's the most common thing I hear from beginner knitters is, I don't know how to fix my mistakes. I don't even know how to look at it to see if it's a mistake for sure. And I always tell them the only way to get better at fixing mistakes is to make more mistakes. And I don't really want to encourage you to do that. So it's just a matter of putting in more practice. You know, the more you practice, the more you knit, the more mistakes you will make, and you'll learn how to fix them. My trick this week is this product. And there it is. It comes in a little bottle, and look what it's called. Unshrink It. So I saw this at Stitches Midwest 2 or 3 years ago. And it is for unshrinking solution for cashmere wool and wool blend clothing. And it's a wool garment restore, and it helps save shrunken wool clothing. It's $11.99 for a bottle of it. I really don't think it will unshrink a garment that you have felted so hard that you can't see the stitches anymore. But I do think it will relax stitches on something that got slightly felted, right? Like you might have caught it before it got really felted, or it was a superwash that went bad. So I don't know if any of you have had this happen to you, but you've knit socks out of superwash yarn, and then you've worn them for 2 years, and all of a sudden they start to felt. And that's because some of the superwash properties have worn off, because superwash is a chemical process by which it lays down all the fibers on a strand of yarn flat so that they don't reach out and grab one another in order to felt. So when that eventually wears off on some products, you can, especially something that you're washing often, like socks, you can eventually get to the point where you say, wait a second, I thought this was superwash yarn. I've been washing this for a long time, and all of a sudden now it's felted. It might work for something like that when you get toward that end of that cycle if you're not hand washing. I know a lot of people throw their socks right into the washing machine on, low agitation or something, but over time that can happen. So it can't hurt to try, right? If you've got something that is felted, that's gone through the wash. I bought some and I haven't used it on anything yet because I haven't had anything that has happened, but I thought, wouldn't it be bad to have in my arsenal just in case? So I thought I would share that with you. Also, I'm looking for to hire a person for a short-term data entry position for myself. I have some patterns that need to be put up on some websites, and I'm juggling some designs right now, and I don't have time to get it done, and I really like the job to get done. So if there are any of you out there who are, a little computer savvy, it'll be a lot of copying and pasting, and once you do the first one, it will be repeating it over and over 24 times with all my patterns and getting them all up on a new site. If you're interested in that, will you get in touch with me? I could pay you in yarn, patterns, or even cash. I probably shouldn't put this out to everyone, but it's been in the back of my head for 7 days. And sometimes you just need to get it off right? You just need to say, okay, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to put it out there into the universe. Maybe someone will contact me and I can get that off my plate. So, because I really should be working on the designs, and I'm spending a lot of time on the computer doing other things. And so right now I'm just not in a good balance of being able to get that done for myself. Okay, so if you're interested, let me know. Last week we had a little kerfuffle with Matt about what to call a skein of yarn when you unskeined it and it was in a big loop prior to washing it. And that is actually called a hank, for sure. So I dug out this. I knew I'd shown you this before, you guys. And right there, I circled it on the end. That is a hank. And then when you fold it on itself and put a ball band around it, it's a folded hank. And when you twist it into one of these, like up here, it's a twisted hank or skein. So I kept saying, I don't know, it's not a skein because it's not twisted into something. And it just, sometimes the words don't come. You can't think of what it was. And so I'd written down myself a note afterwards and then I did that, and then I couldn't remember what the problem was, what Matt and I had talked about that I needed to look up. Like I wrote down Matt and Cori word, which was really clear later when you come back to it. And then I couldn't remember what it was. And then it came to me later this week because I thought, well, it's no big deal if I can't if I can't remember what it was. Okay, so a lot of you would like a sock episode, so I'm going to think about working on that. I did have someone reach out and ask me briefly about information on designing socks, and I'll try to include some of that. I'm not a huge sock designer. I have two socks out there. If you haven't knit them, go take a look. I have the Shanana Friends socks and the Mr. Tom's Field socks, and they're both textured sock pattern with a heel flap and gusset, top down. So if that's your jam, you could go take a look at those. But right now I'm just not in a little tiny needle sock mood. And usually I have socks on the needles all the time. And I probably have 3 in the bag right now. And I just don't even, until it's like I'm desperate and I need a pair for my husband, like for his birthday. I had to get in there one night and just stay up 2 nights really late and finish up a pair because he likes socks and I needed to give them to him, but it was like a deadline, right? I told you guys I like a good deadline. Linda, hi Linda, asked me if I could talk briefly about how to fix superwash sweaters that have stretched out of shape. And so I'll just tell you what I do. I usually wrap them up in a wet towel or wet them in the sink or use a spray bottle to dampen them. It really depends on what the sweater is, because if I have not wet blocked it by getting it completely wet and dried it out, then I don't want to treat it that way the further times I wash it. But sometimes I will just spray it with a little bit of Febreze, and then I will wet it slightly and roll it up in a towel just to kind of freshen it up a little bit. And then I just lay it back out, kind of block it back out, zhuzh them up. I mean, that's my thought, is that sometimes I will even wet a towel, lay the towel out for a little while on the counter, and then once it gets to the point where it's not soaking wet, I'll throw it in the dryer with the sweater. And then I get like a steamer going, because I don't have a dryer with a steam setting, but if you do, that would be perfect, right? Because that's really what you want to do, is just kind of freshen it up, dampen it a little bit so that everything can come back. Otherwise, I think the dryer is just your friend to, stand near it and just turn it on, put it in for 2 minutes, take it out, take a look at it. See if it's if the fibers have had a chance to kind of redistribute or tighten up a little bit, and if that won't give you what you're looking for. Just to kind of make them look a little fresher. I'm not talking about like laundering. I'm just talking about kind of they're stretched out of shape. You always wear a t-shirt underneath it so you don't have to wash it every time. Especially if it's a woolly wool, then for sure you don't have to wash them every time, because wool is self-cleaning, so it will air itself out if you just kind of lay it out. So that's how I would do it, Linda. And you should come back to my knitting group sometime, because I haven't seen you in a while. I invite everybody to knitting group all the time. Today I'm wearing my holy cowl. We went to church this morning. Then we every year get our flu shot at our grocery store at Cub Foods in the pharmacy department. And if you get a flu shot in my grocery store, you get a 10% off coupon. So my husband is a huge coupon fan. We go out to dinner a lot of times on Friday and Saturday night. We almost always have a coupon before we go somewhere. And so we get these 10% off coupons, and then we do 3 big shops. So before Thanksgiving, we do a big shop, before Christmas, and then usually we have another holiday party in there. And this year, I'm not sure Kylie's going to give her dad her 10% off coupon to use. I think she may use it for herself. But anyway, we all got our flu shots previously. And then we went to do our big holiday shop, and we got snow tires on the car while we were at church. And then when we went back to get the car wasn't done. So it has been a rather busy morning and a little crazy. And this is what I wore to church. And I thought, okay, I'm just going to leave it on. And since I'm dressed and I got my hair cut. Okay. So my hair has been an ongoing process on this podcast because I've been growing it out. And finally, last haircut a week ago, my hair is all one length. It's taken all this time to get it all one length, and we had to take it back up pretty short. He cut quite a bit off the back just to get it back to one length. And I said to him, I'm not sure I love it, which is terrible. I put little clips in it so I wouldn't touch it today on the podcast and tuck all the time because it falls forward. So now that I spent 2 years, a year and a half growing my hair out, I may go back to short and sassy. All you short and sassy people out there make me sad. When I look, I go, oh, I want that short and sassy hair. So anyway, let's move on. Quickly this week, I'm going to tell you that I don't have an audiobook to talk about. I am listening to The Orphan's Tale, and I thought it was something that I had read before, and this is a different one. It's by Pam Jenoff, and it's about a young girl who ends up having a baby, gets disowned by her family, and steals a Jewish baby off a train. It's really good so far. She eventually gets picked up by the circus, and yeah, so I am enjoying it. I have 6 hours left, so I didn't get a lot of listening done this week. But I went out to update the Ravelry group, and I'm looking at this. So on the Ravelry group, under audiobook recommendations, the first post is mine, and every episode that I've talked about books, I add the books that I talk about in that first post when I do the show notes. And I don't know that everybody knows that, and I'm doing it every week. And I thought I should probably mention that, because if you go to this, there are 4 pages of audiobook recommendations, but you have to go back to page 1 and look at the first one, and I have them listed by episode. So if you forget, like I do, someone talks about something on a podcast and I don't have a pen or pencil, and I'll say, I'll remember that, and then I never do. I just thought I should tell you that I do have all of my recommendations listed there, and you could just go and print that out. That's what I did. But it's right in the Ravelry group, and if you haven't joined the Ravelry group, feel free to do that. I do post show notes underneath in YouTube, this podcast. Things don't link there very well for me. I don't know why I'm doing something wrong, but I do have everything listed there that I talk about, the names of the sweaters and the books and those kinds of things. On Ravelry, I link it all. I have it, it's all linked. So you have a couple of places to look up, the things that I talk about. Ooh, hey, let's do the shawl of the week. We haven't done a shawl of the week in a little while. I feel like I had a guest and talked about Rhinebeck sweaters, so we haven't had a shawl in a while, and some of my shawl knitters out there are probably clamoring. So let's take a look at this one. This is one of my favorite shawls. Not kidding. I love it. It is the Great Divide Shawl by Michele Zatarian. I'm going to hold it up so you guys can see it. Okay. It is a DK weight shawl knit on size 8 needles. There are 669 projects out there, so there are tons of color combinations for you to go out and look at. There's a really pretty pink and light gray one. There's some really bold red and white and black and white. I think I liked this one down here in the corner, which is why I decided to go with the one that I did, because it kind of had that acid green. Now, right here, my shirt on my camera looks lime, but this is not lime. It's kind of an acid greeny gold more, and that it matches this, and it doesn't look like it does on the screen, but I got bright lights and it is what it is. So, but I love this shawl. It's not a giant shawl, and this is how I always wear it. I have a jean jacket that I always wear underneath, the shawl underneath at the neck. I did kind of spread this one out, but the stitch pattern is just really fun. I just really like it. I'll take it off and show you guys up close so you can see it. Okay, see that? Isn't that cute? The whole thing. It starts at the top, it's a top down, it's got a little garter edge. I would make this again in a heartbeat. It was really fun to knit. You're doing a couple rows of stockinette, I think, with just that stitch pattern in the center with the increases. So yeah, that is the Great Divide Shawl. I would highly recommend it. Go over and take a look at all the colors. I think that's the most fun part, is just looking at all of the colors that people did it in, you know, blues and purples and reds and grays and creams. Oh, just, you know, that's the beauty of knitting, is that we can all just really express ourselves through lots of color, or lack of color for some of you who don't ascribe to my motto of keeping it colorful. Okay, I'm going to shimmy over here. And the sweater of the week this week is the Mary Mary. And this is a fingering weight, top down, seamless sweater by Andrea Black. And these are my notes. I'm going to read you my notes. Neckline is too low. Disappointed in the fit of the top. Knitting up a sweater that has been in my queue for a while and trying to get it done for Stitches Midwest. I'm concerned about the fit and having too much negative ease, so we'll see. This is quite a low scoop neck on me and I'm busty, so I'll definitely wear a cami or shirt underneath it. I'm very pleased with the finished object. However, if I were to do it again, there is a little weird texture stitch going on just before you break for the waistband, where you decrease the amount of texture you're working and build more into the stockinette stitch. Upon completion, I think it looks more like a mistake than an actual design element. I'll try to get a close-up picture of the area, but I wouldn't do it as written next time. And now that I wear this all the time, and I went back and read that today, I was like, well, that doesn't bother me all that much. But I'll show you the picture. See, it's right here. It's where this is wide and then it gets narrow for the waistband. So there's a literal band right here of ribbing that goes all the way around to the back, and I'll turn this around. The issue with the low neckline, scooped neckline on this was fairly easily fixed, but took me a minute, and you guys now know this trick. But this is how the original sweater should fit. See that? Really low. Here's the bust of this mannequin here. This is like cleavage. That's what we would be seeing right here. And it just did not fit me as well as it could. Now, I'm not very tall, and that could be part of the issue here, is that as I'm knitting top down here, my distance from here to here is not going to be the same as everyone else's. And so, although I need to knit a bigger size because my bust is larger and I'm wider, then I'm also going to get some additional height. Does that make sense, right? And so I probably should have shortened this section up, but because there was quite a bit going on, I have a twisted raglan, I have some textured stitches all going on here before I break for my underarms. I don't think it made like a bold, like, oh gosh, this is going to be too low for me when I first did it. So what I did is I just turned this inside out and picked up a piece of yarn and stitched underneath all the way along here. Just ran it underneath the purl bumps on that ribbing, a piece of yarn up to this shoulder, and then a piece of yarn up to this shoulder. And then I just cinch it up and tie it in a bow so you can watch. Okay. See how that raises that up right there? I can tie it in a little bow. It's just gathering it just a tad, and I tuck that in, and it lays really nice now. And it fits so much better. It just hits me better. On the mannequin, it might be a little hard to tell where it would hit, you know, but this would be the bust line right here. So I just bring it up a little bit. I did sew the buttons on in pairs. There's a pair, a pair, a pair, and I lost a button. When I was getting this out today, I thought, oh dear, one of the buttons must have come off right there, because I don't think that was a single button ever. And then the bottom is really kind of a little bit of a peplum, you know, you've got this kind of baby doll construction where it's a little bit tighter underneath your bust and then it does flare out. But the flares are so wonderful on this. So I'm going to turn it so you can all see. So right here you have your waistline, which is wider and then narrows in right here. And then starting here, you have increases that go out all the way down. So we're following, this is the same little raglan, that the same design of texture stitch, and you're doing increases here all the way out at your hip. So you know how sometimes you make a 2-button front sweater, 1 or 3-button front sweater, and then where you get wider, most women, I don't know that many people that are straight up and down or that are wider on top, although there are some, but most, you know, an average would be that you would get wider, and then your sweater hangs wide like that. So it has an opening in the front because it has to open up for your belly, your boobs, your butt, or those things, whatever that I talk about. This one is built in to keep this front section closed because you're doing increases along here. It's just really nice, a really nice piece. Now so the back doesn't have anything going on except that ribbed waistline. And I wouldn't say that this goes lower than my butt. It just kind of goes, I don't know, what's up? Maybe to the hip. Maybe that would be a better way of saying it. Stops right there. So you've got your raglans here and nothing else going on. So all of the party got going on here is a really pretty textured stitch, a little twisted cable, and then a little lattice, a little twisted cable, a little textured stitch, another little twisted cable, which is also mimicked here and on either side of the raglan and on the back, also at the hip. It's just a really, really nice little fitted sweater. I knit it in a Madeline Tosh single ply, which can be a little iffy, right? Because you're going to get some pilling when you knit it in single ply, but if you knit at a tight enough gauge, the pilling won't be quite as bad as if you knit it at a larger gauge, because you're causing those stitches to be closer together, so they're not so much surface area to get so much pilling. So if you have a single ply yarn that you're not knitting with, just think about knitting on a size needle down. That will help a little bit with the pilling. Okay, so this has a gilded colorway by Madeline Tosh, and Andrea Black wrote this. Mary Mary, I don't know what the reference is to. I probably should know. There are 169 projects, so quite a few people have knit it. And other than the neckline being a little too low for my bust and where things fall on me, which I could have just taken a little bit of the length of from the top of the shoulder down out, it really does fit me well, and I really like it. And these little buttons have little like maroony purple jewels in the center of them, and so that's the color shirt that I wear. Not that you can see it from there, but right in the center of all these is a little jewel that is the color of this shirt. So that's what I wear under it. Two pieces that I really like. They were very fun to knit. Something going on, right? Textures, stitches always provides a little something going on. Yeah, I really did enjoy that. I thought they were both a lot of fun. And I think doing heavier weight shawls, if you don't have one in your stash and you're always knitting your shawls on fingering weight, you might want to try a little bit heavier one. I think they work up so much quicker, and yeah, that's really fun. I just have one thing I'm going to show today. I usually don't show anything I purchased, but I bought something at Rhinebeck that came in the mail while I was gone, and I love it. It's sitting on the dining room table. I wouldn't let myself use it. And it's like a flannel plaid project bag. Oh, I just love it. It's got pockets in it, and it's from the Toad Hollow ladies. Toad Hollow NJ. They're from New Jersey. They have a podcast. They are knitters and stitchers and yarn dyers and bag makers. And they have a new bag coming out this week, the end of this week, that's going to be a surprise. It's not a project bag. So I'm just excited. They're going to do it in some wool, plaid wools. But because this was orange, and she only had the small one at Rhinebeck, and I said, oh no, I got to have the big one, because I think this will easily hold a sweater's quantity. And I can't wait. I might even carry this as my purse because I think that might go up over my shoulder. So I might try it as a purse. But anyway, yeah, the Toad Hollow ladies. The Toad Hollow ladies, Mary Beth and Helen. Hi, ladies. So let me do the hellos for all of you. Melinda Russo, Tami Semborski, Helen Paxford. Hi to your husband, Helen, and for trying the tassel trick on your husband. I think that's hilarious. Do you guys remember that I had the red robin shawl last week and it had tassels on it? And they said you have to make sure that they hang lower. So Helen tried it on her husband. I hope I'm not embarrassing you and Helen, you and your husband. But I thought it was great. It would be totally something I would tell my husband too. So hi to both of you. Julie Smith, Better and Popcorn, Jesse's Mom 12, Amber Keller, Penny Gilbert, Edina Cole, Mimi Cat Do 64, PJ, Prudence, Cat Gore, Rose Limke, Jennifer Page, and 3 men at your house. Oh, that would be hard. I'm sorry that you would have to live with all that testosterone, but you're going to knit men's sweaters. Amaris Joseph, and Amaris is the one who's asking me about sock design. And Amaris, I'm going to try to come up with some bullet points for you about designing socks. Olivia Menke, Beverly, Rula's in Cyprus, you guys. Oh my gosh, I was so excited about that. I thought, I got to know, like, what's your weather in the Mediterranean, right? Like, and she's like, actually, it's cold here. So I was like, oh, there goes my theory on it's always warm in the Mediterranean. Peggy Bork, Carol Childers, Andrea Rivera, Michelle Rudy, Linda Gesling, Rita Wood. Hi, Rita. Rita's doing some test knitting for me, and so we've been going back quite back and forth quite a bit. Kathy Goodman, Stephanie Haberman, Jane Taylor in South Dakota, my favorite librarian. Probably Knitting, Debbie Whitehead, Debbie M, Zoe, Cindy 619-253. Pat Howes, Amy Blanford, Mary B, Wisconsin Tatter, Knit Takes Two Michele, Jessica Mercantante, gotta say this one again, Emma, who's on the west coast of New Zealand, you guys. So I had to ask Emma about that because I had to look it up. We've gone back a couple of times, but I went out and looked, and she told me that she was on the north or south end of the west coast of New Zealand. And then I said, I think maybe you're as far south as I am north. So do you have 4 seasons? And are you going into spring now? Because I'm an ignorant geography person, apparently. And she got back to me and she's like, yes, that would be that you are 41 degrees latitude north and I'm 45, or vice versa, but we're really close to being as far, from the equator. So I'm reading this to my husband as we're on our way to South Dakota for my mom's 80th birthday last weekend, and he goes, latitude, and I was like, I know what it was. I didn't ask her that. I just said, are you as far south as I am north? But Emma got it right. Emma understood. Me and Emma. Anyway, Fernie, Nikki Cruzan, Chris Osborne, Carla, Charity, and Scrap Fair on Ravelry. So there you go, folks. All you people out there that are saying hello to me. I did go home to Sioux Falls last weekend for my mom's 80th birthday. We had a dinner on Saturday night, and here's your little Cori story. It's not a very big one, but I'm telling a tale on myself. So I knit my mom a sweater and a shawl, and I've had them going for a while, and I was going to have one for Mother's Day, and then it didn't get done, so I just thought, whatever. I was going to give her the sweater in the spring, and it didn't happen. So the video stopped, and I don't know what I missed. So we're just going to keep going and hope you guys got this. Wrapping a present for my mom, go to the laundry room to get a gift bag. carrying her sweater, her card, and her shawl on top of one another, set them by the sink, open the drawer, all kinds of packing envelopes, but no gift bags. So I think, okay, now I got to go see if I have a gift bag somewhere else, maybe in the basement or whatever. And I leave the stuff back there on the bench, and I go, and I never go back. So we're in the car on the way to South Dakota, and my husband says, "Did you get your mom a present for her birthday?" And I went, "Ah, the sweater and the shawl." Now we're in Worthington, Minnesota. Anybody from southern Minnesota? Which is 3 hours from home and almost an hour. There's no turning back. There's no turning back. We have to keep going. I was just sick. I could not believe that I forgot it. I told you guys last time I've been a little distractible recently. I have a lot. I'm juggling a lot of balls, and usually I'm pretty good at this like multitasking thing. I have lists everywhere. I'm organized. I can keep a list. Can't remember to bring my mother's birthday present to her birthday party. Of course, mothers love us, but I'm sure she was kind of like, well, that stinks. I would kind of like to open a hand knit sweater for my daughter at the party. Her sister gave her a scarf, store-bought. It was really cute, but I was bummed. So anyway, not everyone could come from the whole family, but everybody, we had a group. We had a very nice dinner, and then we served donuts at church the next morning. My parents have gone to the same small Lutheran church in Sioux Falls, South Dakota for my whole life since I was little. And so they know everyone there. And, my dad's in the choir. He loves to sing. He's a great singer. I wish he would have passed on that trait. I did not get that. I will never be the singing knitter. And so they decided to have donuts after both services. So we served donuts and coffee. They have a little gathering area, and everyone came up and said, nice things to my mom and wished her happy birthday. And I don't think she was super happy about turning 80. I mean, I think this was a tough one for her. She's not as spry as she wants to be. Aren't we all? Not quite as spry as we want to be when we get past a certain age. But, so I just think it was a little bit harder for her to realize that, we're all getting older. And so it was a very nice time. It was a very nice weekend, and we will not see them for Thanksgiving. We're staying here in the Twin Cities. My husband has been traveling a lot in the fall. He works for a pension. I don't know if I've ever mentioned this. Maybe I have, but he works for what used to be the ELCA, Lutheran Pastors in America Board of Pensions. It's a nonprofit that he went to work for as a contractor to help them fix some computer stuff, and he stayed a few years ago. It wasn't all that long ago, but he just really liked the non-politics part of not being in corporate and being in a nonprofit, and helping pastors who don't have a lot of money with their pensions and their benefits. Does that make sense? Yeah. So every year when you're a pension and benefit place, you have to re-enroll all your people, and they're growing their business. So they have recently started to spread out, and they're kind of picking up other kind of care facility places. So they're doing some nursing homes, and then handicapped, disabled, young people, their employees. I'm doing a terrible job of this. Anyway, and that new business is coming on. So you have to go explain the packages and then enroll the people. And so since it's all new, and he's the head of IT, he's been going all over, and he's just been gone a lot. And so we are going to stay home. All that to say, it wouldn't be a Cori show if my train didn't go off the track at least once. Sorry. Oh, well, whatever. So we're going to stay home and just have a small, quiet Thanksgiving with our daughter and her boyfriend, and then they're going to his family also. And then we're seeing a play. We're just going to see a musical on Saturday night. And last night we went and saw the Ford versus Ferrari movie. My husband is a car repair nut. He loves to restore old cars. That's his passion. And he was so excited to go to that film. And I was really, really excited to knit on my cowl during the movie. It was good, but, you know, lots of racing, car racing, vroom, vroom. Lots of loud car racing. It's a great story, especially if you really like cars and engines and motors and all that kind of stuff. So he had read the book. He wanted me to read the book, and I never did. I probably should have listened to it, but before we went. And I just want to give a little shout out to a couple of friends here. Stephanie of TELLYBEANKNITS, and this is her website and Instagram feed, is doing a knit along starting January 1st. It's probably one of the most unique mystery knit alongs I've seen in a long time. It's all based on a tasting menu, and so she did pictures with all the different kinds of food that look like yarn. It is so clever. Look at this pot of spicy yarn colors. Oh, it's genius. She did the collection with Lolo Did It, and Lolo did all of these different color, and I'm missing the bottom two, because of course it couldn't all print on the same page. So you need a bunch of mini skeins and a full skein to knit along. You can use stuff that you have in your stash. You do not have to buy the kit from Lolo, but it is on sale at Lolo Did It for $99 for all the minis and the full skein of yarn, and I think maybe even the pattern is included in that. Okay, so you can go over to TELLYBEANKNITS or Lolo Did It. But my friend Amber, if you're watching this in the next couple of days, Amber is doing a giveaway on Instagram. Lolo Did It gave her a kit to give away, and she's going to participate in Stephanie's Mystery Knit Along in January. And so if you're interested in that, you should go to Instagram and sign up to try to be, I mean, Amber has so many followers, but one lucky person will get to participate in the knit along without having to buy the yarn, which I think will be super fun. Stephanie designs really clever, kitschy, fun, cute, bright projects. I'm knitting her complimentary mitts right now, where one is striped with pink and purple and one is striped with purple and pink. And yeah, she just really does a nice job, and I don't want people to miss out because they didn't know about it. Maybe she's not on your radar. Maybe you don't follow Amber. Maybe you're not on Instagram. I don't know. I just wanted to shout it out because I just think it's so clever. It's all the different foods. She's got spicy and sweet and umami, and it's just, yeah, it's really a clever concept, and I think it would be fun. I know not everybody's always on board with the mystery knit along, but I don't want us to have FOMO after the fact when we see the finished object and we're like, oh, I wish we would have bought into that and, you know, signed in. So I just thought I'd share that quick. So I want to tell you quickly about an article I read this week on Laura Ayler's blog called Tossing the Stash. That's her blog. And the article was called Why Is It Hard to Give Good Yardage Estimates? And she's a designer talking about yardage amounts that we put on a pattern. And she has 5 or 6 reasons why it's difficult to get it to be accurate. And some of them are so interesting. And she talks about weighing yarn and having your scale be calibrated correctly. And then also humidity. Weigh the same skein on a humid day in August and a cold day in January and bet the numbers are different. Mind blown on that one for me. People use different yardages at the same gauge. Estimated for yardage across different sizes is especially tough. She talks about just so many things that can make it hard to be really accurate. And so usually if you are a designer, you will have test knitters knit an object, and then they will send you the amounts they used as far as yards and weight goes. And then you will take that number and you will average it amongst all of the people that you had, you know, giving you feedback. But let's say I designed a cowl and everybody used about 580 yards. Worsted weight, 200 yards per skein. But one of my people used 605, and my skeins are 200 yards. Am I really going to include that 605 number in order to give everybody the indication that they might need to buy a fourth skein? Probably not. I'm going to go with the average, and that's going to put me at below 600 yards. So I'm going to say everybody needs 3 skeins. And if you're the person that knits slightly looser, and all those people that don't like to do gauge swatches, don't like to, figure it out first, then for sure you just always need to buy an extra skein. But it does make it really hard. And so if you've ever been frustrated by that, like you've run out of yarn, you played yarn chicken, and the pattern said you needed, even more than you had, but this might be a good little article for you to go read. So I'll link to it.
One more thing. Last week I mentioned a yarn dyer, A Sea of Stones, was doing sweater quantities, and several of you went over to her website to take a look. She was hospitalized last week and had a TIA and is now recovering, and so her shop update did not happen, and I'm not sure when it's going to happen, but she still plans to do it, but she is currently walking with the cane and really struggling, so maybe a little good mojo going her way. You can go over to Instagram and look and see at her 2 previous posts about what's going on and what has happened. But I just wanted to let you know that website, A Sea of Stones, did not get updated as it should have last week 2 weeks ago on that website.
How come whenever I stop recording and I walk away for 5 or 10 minutes, I think of the thing that I wanted to talk about? Happens every week. Just so you all know, I have to come back in and edit myself. I went to a line dancing class, and it was awesome. Highly recommend. Had a knitter friend say that she had been doing line dancing for about a year, and I used to love to dance, and I have kind of gotten away from doing any kind of dancing. My husband's not a dancer. We don't go out to bars or clubs. That is not a thing that we do. And I thought, I took ballet and tap and jazz, and I did gymnastics, floor exercise for years. And so I said to her, I would really like to come with you sometime. I mean, I invited myself along. And she's like, I would love to have you come. And so I went on Friday. It was a 1-hour beginner class. If you can step together step or right, left, right kick, you can do this. It was so fun. The median age of the women in the class was older than I am, and they were phenomenal. I was huffing and puffing a little bit by the time the hour was over, although she goes over each dance before you actually do it. So she reviewed all the steps for the dance, and we practiced. Then she put it to the music, and then she put it to faster music. And everybody made a little mistake, but it was very welcoming. People were having a lot of fun. There was a little bit of clapping involved, but you could kind of just do your own thing in your own little square. And it was so much fun that I thought, why wouldn't I tell people about that? Because the Pilates physical therapist that I'm going to right now, not that much fun. I signed up with a physical therapist at a Pilates studio because I really wanted to try using those reformer machines, and I thought it might be good for my core strength and my back support because I have a lot of back trouble, which you guys all know. And I thought, okay, I'm going to sign up with this woman, and then she can help me get to the point where I'm going to do the reformer machine. And my very first session was maybe a month ago, and she immediately said, you're not using your left knee, your left leg. And I said, yes, I am. It's my new knee replacement. And she said, no, you favor it a lot. And so she had me sit on this just stool and stand up. And I immediately slid my left leg forward and stood up. And she said, no, keep your feet on the floor and stand up. And I was like, I don't think I can. It was eye-opening to me that I have been favoring it because it makes noise. The kneecap of a knee replacement is plastic, and it runs in a little groove up and down. And so if it gets a little pressure on it, it goes, and you can kind of hear it and feel it. And I wouldn't say that it's painful, but it's very bothersome. You know, like sometimes when your wrist cracks, you get a little pain, right? It's not hugely significant. It doesn't last very long. But I said, I'm embarrassed that I am not using my leg. And so she watched me walk, and she said, no, you're not really limping. And I said, I have to confess that at the dog park that morning when I was walking the dog, a gentleman, an older gentleman, said to me, you're limping. Did you hurt yourself? Are you okay? And I said, no. I said, I'm not limping. I'm not hurt. I have a new left knee, but it's a year old. And he said, oh, I used to teach martial arts back in the day, and I could always recognize if someone had an injury. So 2 people in the same day called me out on not using my hamstring and my buttocks to get myself off the chair. So I went up to dinner with my daughter, and we were sitting on lower stools where my hind end seemed lower than normal. And I said, can you just squeeze and stand up from right here without like using your arms or getting a little momentum or whatever? And she was like, yeah, Mom. So she stood up, and I was like, oh, shit. Bummer. So instead of learning how to use the reformer at the physical therapy office, I'm spending most of my time learning how to use my left leg better, because that needs to happen, right? I just didn't realize, and I think a lot of it is just in your head. You just don't even notice it because something bothers you a little bit and then you stop using it. So I still hope to try to get to a reformer class and to see what that's all about, because it's, you know, no impact, and you're just on a kind of a board that moves back and forth, and you use a pulley system and your own body weight, and then you can. So anyway, the tales and traumas and woe is me that was happening in Cori's physical exercise section this week. Just thought I'd share. I just wanted to let everyone know that it is taking me hours and hours to upload the podcast every week, but it is because we are slated to have some construction in our neighborhood and have a new cable put in. Apparently there's some type of problem, and our download speeds aren't bad, but our upload speeds are like 0.89, and so every tech that I talk to says that's the lowest I've ever seen, and so it is an issue, but I'm hoping to get it resolved via our neighborhood. I don't know that I can take the podcast somewhere else and upload it on someone else's speed. Maybe I could, but I haven't tried that yet. So it's just taking hours and hours. I always hope for it to go up every other Tuesday, but if for some reason you're used to seeing it on late on Monday night or early on Tuesday morning and it's not there, it's just because it's still coming. Last week's episode took 22 or 23 hours to upload, and I have to kind of babysit it because it has failed, so it can get, you know, a couple of hours in and then fail completely if I lose a connection, and so then I have to start it over. So I do kind of eventually go to bed and get up in the morning and with my fingers crossed and hope that it has still kept going. But I just thought I should mention. Okay, I think that's about all I have for you guys today. I'm going to go put a ham in the oven because we want ham and bean soup later this week. So I'm going to soak some beans and put a ham in the oven for tonight, and then we'll have ham and bean soup this week. I hope you all have a very happy Thanksgiving, and remember that the way we as white people celebrate Thanksgiving is probably not honoring to the indigenous people who lived here first. And so let's kind of remember that and what our Thanksgiving should be about. And I will see you guys all next time. Happy Thanksgiving. Keep it colorful.